Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards, and this is Sunday Conversations, where I bring on a guest and we just chat. So today I have Louise Edington with me, and you may have seen us together because before I even had a YouTube channel, from Cosmic Owl Astrology invited me to her channel, and so we did a few what would you call them,
Hmm.
programs, whatever,
Yeah,
together.
shows, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
I am I'm very grateful, and I am returning the favor now. So let me tell you a little
Mm.
bit about Louise. Louise Eddington's known as the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, guiding souls through the cosmic dance for over 30 years. That's a long time, Louise.
Mhm.
Louise offers profound insights into personal transformation and self-discovery through astrology. Specializing in deep soul work, she connects clients to their unique cosmic blueprint, empowering them to navigate life with purpose and clarity. Louise is author of The Complete Guide to Astrology, which is terrific, and The Complete Guide to Astrology for Beginners. Louise blends ancient wisdom with practical applications, making the stars accessible and inspiring for everyone. So, welcome, Louise.
Thank you for having me here, Erica. I always love
I'm
talking to you.
thrilled to have you here. I had Laurie Farrington on last week, and she does primarily natal astrology and has a book coming out. So, people will think that I know something about astrology when we both know, Louise, that I do not. I know what my three things are, and that's about it. But I
Yeah.
wanted to have you on because
I
you
think you're picking a few things up
Oh,
then.
yes, I am picking things up. I am picking things up. But you do some really interesting work. So how did you get into astrology in the first place?
Oh, yes. Well, in 1989, I was going through my first Saturn return. Everybody has a Saturn return at around age 29 when Saturn comes back around by transit to the place it was at when you were born.
And Saturn,
And
the taskmaster, is that true?
it's taskmaster, but also mastery,
Mhm.
and also kind of like maturity. So Saturn returns are a time of great maturation, and sometimes they're tough, and sometimes they're less tough. But we all have at least two. One around 29, one around 58. So I'm past my second now. And some people are lucky enough to have a third one. But they are big, major life cycles. And anyway, I was going through that and I made a friend who had done an astrology course way back before computers. She'd learned how to calculate charts and she did a handwritten reading for me of my chart and I was blown away. I'd always been interested in sun signs, so it was something I was interested in. And so she gave me books and helped me learn a little bit how to do it myself. And for many years, I just practiced on my own and friends and whoever would let me practice
Mhm.
completely for free until 2011. I decided I was going to become a professional astrologer for money. And since then, I've just like everything is astrology for me. I've learned so many more things about astrology. I've got what a Gemini moon, which is very curious. So I'm constantly learning new techniques and practices. And that's why my focus of my work is quite varied, really, and also why I write such a lot and talk such a lot on YouTube about
Right,
astrology.
right.
Yeah.
So, well, I
So
know
that's the story.
you're a very involved American, we'll say, but people will hear your accent.
Yeah.
Tell us where you're from and how you arrived here.
Well, I was born in Derby, in England, which is right in the middle of England. Very kind of working class background, if you like. Nobody in my family is interested in anything about astrology or anything like that, or tarot or any of that stuff. So it's not in my blood, if you like. But I was actually living in the US when I met the friend who introduced me to what I would call real astrology,
Oh,
because I was a nanny. But then I moved back to England, got married, met my husband, still just studying it on my own. And then my husband's got laid off, and we decided to go on an adventure, and we emigrated to Australia. We were only there 19 months because the job my husband got in Australia moved us to Utah, where I live now.
that's
So I
the
kind of
cultural
full
shift.
circle. Oh my God, it was a cultural shift. It's taken me the whole 16 years I've been here to really get used to it. So, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So I know
Yeah.
that you work a lot with Venus. Can you tell us about Venus and where your
Mhm.
work started and what it's developed into? Because I know it's a big thing that you do.
It really is. Now, the first thing I'll say is that the Venus, the planet, is very prominent in my own chart. She's right at the top of my chart, which is always a prominent place. She's conjunct Neptune, the planet of dreams and
Hmm.
intuition. And anyway, I obviously I'd worked with Venus at a basic level, just from what I'd learned from books. But then
What does
I
that mean?
actually,
What does that mean? Because
um, I
I'm
I
asking
was
questions my audience would ask. What does that mean?
yeah.
I've worked with Venus.
Well, when I looked at people's charts and things, I would talk about Venus in terms of what I had read in books and so on. But then in early 2017, I actually had a dream and woke up, and I was like, oh, I'm going to offer a class called the Venus Retrograde Heroine's Journey. And I was like, okay. Now, now Venus, every planet, not the sun and moon, because they're not planets, goes retrograde from our perspective. Um, and Venus goes retrograde the least of all the planets, is
Now,
all I'm going to say.
retrograde, from our perspective, means we think it goes backwards, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we think it goes backwards, but actually, what it does is a loop from our perspective.
right.
So it's retracing an area of the whole zodiac, right? And anyway, so I offered this first class in 2017 very quickly. And I'm going to be offering my sixth iteration of it because Venus only goes retrograde every 19 months. But I'm also a shamanic practitioner. So that's an interesting story too, because at the same time as I discovered real astrology in 1989, I also got connected with some people who took me to real sweat lodges, like indigenous sweat lodges, where we actually built sweat lodges. We went into sweat lodges, and I had some quite interesting experiences in that. And I became very interested in shamanic practices, for want of a better term. Um, and and so I also trained to be a shamanic practitioner here in Utah about the same time as I was kind of deepening my understanding of astrology to become a paid practicing astrologer.
Now, how did you
And so,
find a practitioner in Utah to teach you this?
um, I just happened upon one who became a friend through a group I knew, and she asked me if I'd like to take her course, and she actually offered it to me for free.
Wow.
So I leapt on it, and so my whole interests kind of collided. My interest in the shamanic realms and my astrology all collided, and they collided most in this class that I offer, which is based on myth. We do shamanic healing work, we do the astrology, but it's not really just an astrology course at all. It's really very much a healing journey. So
So what,
that's my
I
approach
mean, a
to
healing
astrology.
journey, what kind of things do people come to you
Mhm.
for healing about?
It's usually I'm more of a consulting astrologer when I work with them one on one. And I take them into a deep dive of where they're at in their chart. It's kind of like therapy, but clearly I'm not allowed to call myself a therapist
Right.
because I'm not qualified or licensed. but I take them into a deep dive into their soul and help them to understand how they work at a deep level and help them to face times of challenges in a more kind of aligned way. Because I think when you understand a challenge, it helps you to deal with it more. It helps you to face it more. And I just meet people where they're at. So I kind of do natal astrology, but I don't do the natal astrology where I just go through and go, well, this is a description of what your sun means. I go way deeper than that. And I kind of take them into an exploration of who they are at their very core
Mhm.
essence.
Mhm. So, and we'll have a link to that course. You're offering it coming up soon, right?
I am, yeah. I've just launched a page for it, and there's an early bird offer where people can get it a bit cheaper and also have a three payment option if
Okay,
they've
good.
registered before the end of the year. So,
Great,
yeah.
good. So now tell me how you got into YouTube with your cosmic
Mm,
astrology
yeah. Well,
YouTube.
I've been on YouTube for ages. I'd done video because I was actually a social media marketing manager before I just
Oh, in your
dipped
muggle world.
all.
Yeah.
Yes, in my muggle world for a while anyway. And so I knew the power of YouTube. So I started doing YouTube astrology videos, but I it took me a kind of a while to find my stride, if you like. I started just doing new and full moon videos. Now I do all kinds of astrology videos. But I also, and we're not going to go deep into this, but I also share with you a very healthy interest in the political realms, or how we work and how what's going on in the news. And so I've actually started doing more videos regarding that as well. Generally, kind of mundane
Mhm.
astrology, as it's called, but mundane astrology often takes a very definitive, predictive kind of view.
So
I
let's
kind
stop,
of
let's
take,
stop before let's talk about
yeah,
mundane because
yeah,
some people
mm,
understand the word that the way that I did. Mundane was sort of like
mm,
boring. That's not what it means.
mhm,
And mundane comes from the root of it is MUND, which is the world, like le monde
mhm,
in French, right? So instead of looking at someone's personal circumstances in their personal chart, mundane astrology looks at events that are happening in the zeitgeist, right? In the culture and in the
yeah.
world.
Yep, all the events and what might come of it and the people involved in the events. So because I've got this very curious brain, I like to go into all these things. So I'm doing more and more of that. But being me, the way I work, I kind of take it in a lot of mundane astrology is based on, looking back at when similar patterns in the astrology happened at a certain time
Right.
in the world. I tend to go back and look at the time when similar things happened, but also look at what was different then, because I think most people have heard the quote history um, doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
Mhm.
It often means that events seem very similar, but it doesn't mean the outcome's going to be the same, right? So
Right. It's cyclical, really, more than circular.
yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah. And I also kind of take the approach of looking at, we have changed in our consciousness. So, how we're responding to these events is going to be different as well. Because I see astrology as very quantum in nature, in that, the whole world is both wave and particle. Science is proving that now. We're all in this entanglement and kind of bouncing off each other. There's various scientific theories. I've actually got a free gathering that I'm also putting on. Um, I've already done the interviews and it's ready, so I can send you the sign up link for that.
Good.
People will get these interviews one a day for from January the 6th to the 17th, talking about how astrology is quantum and it's involved in how we respond to it and the stories we tell ourselves about it. One example I could give you of that is there's a lot of what I would call fear porn astrology out there in social media world. And I'm on a bit of a mission to change that as well, because I get a lot of people coming to me and they go, oh, this is going to be happening in my chart, because they know just enough of their own astrology to be dangerous, right?
Yes, right.
And
Little
they go, I'm going to have this Pluto transit, say, and I kind of take them in deeper and go, this can be a really rewarding time. It can be challenging, but it can be really rewarding. It's a time to look at your shadow, and that applies whether it's for the personal or the collective. So, I just think, I think we have to approach all of this without fear. And so I do that for my mundane astrology, and I do it for the personal astrology, and I do it in the classes. It's how can we work with the planets and the energies and the cycles and all of these things as a tool of empowerment, rather than as thinking the world's going to end or something like that. Does that make
Yeah, that makes sense.
sense?
Yeah. So you mentioned a word. Maybe you'll talk more about it. I mean, I've heard this word a lot, and I have my own
Mm.
theory about what it is. But um, can you explain your understanding of the word shadow?
Yeah. I don't see the shadow as anything bad. I see it a part of it's part of us that we perhaps just don't like very much, very, very much. We don't want to look at it. And, it's part of ourselves where we've either told ourselves or the world's told ourselves or something like that, that it's something bad, it's something dirty. I get people coming with, say, you know, oh, I've got this aspect in my chart. And so I always kind of do this thing. Well, I think that's a limiting belief, because I think if you look at it deeper, you can choose how you respond to it better if you're emotionally triggered, and you can maybe respond from a higher place. And I mean, I even have a bit of problem with that higher and lower thing, because it's kind of a judgment thing, because we are who we are, and the world is what it is. There's
Yeah.
shine, there's
No, the
shadow,
world
there's
is what it is. My whole thing
mm,
with shadow is that when I think of the United States, I think that our shadow, if I think about things that we don't want to look at, I
mhm.
think that race is the thing that
Oh,
we don't want to look at.
yes.
And so, I mean, is it bad?
Agree.
In that case, yeah, it is bad. It is
Oh,
bad because we choose to understand ourselves one way when really we have always and ever been another way. And I think
mhm.
it has brought us to where we are now. So, you could argue
I
that
would,
both the
so
person and the
I
moon.
would suggest, I would suggest that it's a shadow in a bad way, because
That's bad.
we're not prepared to look at it.
No,
If
right.
we're
But that's what
prepared,
makes it
if
shadow.
Yeah, but if we're prepared to look at that shadow, that's where the healing can come.
Right,
And we
exactly.
can learn from the lessons of racism, and how it has impacted, the victims of racism, and those
Well,
who have suffered
I think
under
the
it, and
problem is
learn
that
to do better.
I think it's less about how it affected a particular group. I think that the shadow around that we don't look at is I think it damaged everyone.
Mhm.
Everyone.
Oh, well,
And
I would.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I
yeah,
think that that's the part that people don't want to look at. I mean, there are people who have benefited from it, but
but
in the process of
have helped.
benefiting, well, they've been morally damaged, I think, and
Yes, yes,
spiritually and psychologically
yes.
damaged. They don't see that. They don't want to see it, and nothing in the culture rewards anybody seeing that.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the real
Mm.
shadow work, and I
And
don't see us willing to do that anytime soon, sadly.
and I have an interest in that. Well, I actually have hope for over the next decade or so. It's going to take time. because of certain astrological cycles that I've started looking at, that there are more and more people who are prepared to look at it. And there's a great book that I'm listening to at the moment by Timothy Snyder called On Freedom, and he talks about racism in that. And I think there's more and more people talking about it. And I think, I've got a healthy interest in that as well, because American history itself has always interested me. And I've looked at the astrological chart of Jamestown when the first slaves were brought ashore, and I've kind of seen how it's built into the shadow of the very founding of the USA.
Yeah.
But the USA is going through a consciousness shift, a massive consciousness shift. It feels like it's all up in our face at the moment, but
Oh,
I
it's
do
not nearly as much as up in our face as it's going to be, in my opinion.
no, no, over the next while, few years.
Years, yeah. Yeah,
Let's just put it that way.
yes,
But
right.
but but I think in some ways, and I hate that people have to suffer from it. I think people who do want to face it have to see it
Yeah.
to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think
and
that that's in some ways to me that's one of the saddest things is that,
yeah,
many of us understood this along, I mean, our whole lives. And
hmm
but we are, as much as we are separate entities from each other, we're actually not. We're
no,
we're
no,
an organism, all of us. And so if all of us are not brought along, then none of us move forward. So
and
it's like
that's
you have
I
to
mean
wait
by
for,
that's partly what I mean by the quantum realm
right,
of how
exactly.
we've got to see that everything is connected.
Everything's
Everything.
connected. And so we have to wait for the slow kids in the class to catch up.
Yes. Yes.
And that means I suspect, well, I know, more difficulty for everyone. But that's how people see things is when they're right up in their grills, so to speak.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But because I really like to look for the positive signs as well, I am also seeing that there are an awful lot of people who are prepared to face this as we go through this consciousness upgrade.
Let me
So,
ask you this, because and I know you're talking about sort of largely the collective,
mm,
everybody.
mm,
I'm curious at your thoughts on the magical community, people who will call themselves or be called or known as, the light workers. Like you would be considered a light worker, I would be considered a light worker.
yeah,
Um, and you know, people may assume certain things about light workers uh,
yeah.
that in fact may not be accurate. What is your
Oh,
understanding of the
well, I think
community?
this. I kind of struggle with being called a light worker, except that I do try and bring the light, shine a light onto things. So in that respect, I like to shine a light on things. But there's a lot of spiritual bypassing in that community. There's a lot of this is dirty, I don't want to look at it. I think one of the biggest kind of periods we're in is people realizing that we are human. We are half animal, half consciousness, connected to the earth, to everything, to each other. And we are here to descend into our humanness, not ascend to some, you know, um, other realm. And so people talk about the 5D, and like some people are starting to get that the 5D is not this kind of, leave the dirt behind. The 5D is really understanding all these connections and bringing it into center. And
Mhm,
that's how I understand people who are doing the real light work, if you want to call that.
mhm.
But a lot of people call themselves light workers and they just don't want to look at anything, you
No, I
know,
mean, I
remotely.
to a lot of people about what they did in your home country of England during the war. the
Yeah.
raising the dome, a dome of protection. So do you know, you probably know more about that than I do. The can you
I don't actually. I don't know
So
about that
during
now.
World War II, um, now again, back then England was way more homogeneous than, for example, the US has ever been. And
Yeah.
so there were people who were, we'll call them for the sake of argument, light workers, but you could say witches or wizards or whatever. And they put a dome of protection over London.
Mm,
And the theory is, or the understanding is that that was what protected London.
mm,
And
mm.
so they, now how did they do that? Well, I don't know exactly, but they
I'm sure it was visualization,
yes,
a
they
collective.
did. Visualizing, they communicated with each other. There may have
Yeah.
been common times when they, raised the energy to create the thing. And, would that the magical community nowadays could do something like that? Um, I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily an inclination to do that. That's the thing. That with those people there in that time and in that space, they all had a common goal and a
Mm-hmm.
common, we'll call it enemy, because Hitler
Yeah.
was kind of it was an enemy. Um,
Yeah.
and I think now in the magical community, there's very splintered understanding of
Mm.
who's the good guys and who are the bad guys and what is, right and
Oh,
what is not right.
there,
So,
there is amongst a lot of them, but I'm actually a part of a group that is doing that. We're
really,
visualizing, you
mhm,
know, the results of this last election
fiction.
to turn around at some point. I don't think it's beyond I think it's beyond a recount and things, but that's why part of the videos I'm doing at the moment with another astrologer and a professional psychic are about we're bringing in NATO and all these things, and we've got both between the three of us, we've got huge geopolitical knowledge of the world, how it works.
Mhm,
And we are part of groups who are sending out intention of protection
mhm,
and visualizing things turning around
mhm,
as
mhm.
fast as possible, hopefully, you know. So I think there are people prepared to do it. So, but then again, there's those that just don't even want to go there. Yeah. So you're right. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is too bad because
Um,
silence is death. I mean, silence kills. Silence is not great.
oh, I totally agree. That's and a lot of I know a lot of channels on YouTube shut down their
It's
channels or
true.
closed
After the
down
election. Hmm.
because they'd predicted Harris winning and she didn't win, or apparently she didn't win. We know they cheated, but they may have cheated
Well, I
legally.
think, we weren't going to talk about this, but I'm going to
I
say,
know, but
I think, well, here we are. I think um, obviously there was cheating.
Mhm.
Obviously there was interference,
Oh
foreign
yeah,
interference, absolutely,
yeah.
100%. But I also think that a lot of people voted differently from the way that they indicated that they would vote. I definitely
Oh,
believe.
I believe that too.
And
Yeah, I
so,
think both
because,
come
and
through.
I don't think you can co-opt an unbroken system. We have a broken system, and
Yeah.
it was co-opted. I like you. I mean, we all predicted the same thing. We all saw the same thing, and
Mhm.
we're devastated at the result. Uh, and I always say this. I still say it on my channel that it was Harris's destiny to be
Oh,
the president.
I
But
said it in my YouTube videos.
it's
Yeah.
also true that if it was just between you and your destiny, that would be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
But there and you have free will, of course, but guess what? So do other people. Other
Yes.
people have free will. And
Yeah.
I think that her destiny was ripped from her. Someone asked me a question. They sent me an email and they said, "Do you think that Harris is president in another timeline?" I said, "She could well be." And then the person said, "And I want to be in that time." And I said, "Well, she could well be. But the thing is, you and I find ourselves in the
In
timeline
this one.
in this one.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we can press our noses against the window of other timelines, but this is where we are here now. And I think one person said a while ago something like, "Oh, I think I said we clearly have lessons to learn." When Obama got elected in 2008, if I had a penny for every person that said we live in a post-racial society, I would be rich. Uh, we know that Obama's presidency sort of unloosed the hounds of hell.
It did. It
And
did.
right. And so I said we have lessons to learn. And then so somebody wrote, "Well, but we elected Biden. Didn't we learn our lesson?" And I said, "And then where were you January, I mean, whatever it is, November 5th of 2024? Who is we
Yeah.
have a lot to learn, and it's not the way Americans always want things. I always say this on my YouTube channels. Americans like things quick,
Oh,
fast,
they.
and in a
Oh,
hurry,
yeah. Oh, they do. Yep.
and
They don't want to
painless.
look. They don't
Painless.
want to look.
No.
Yeah.
So we all have to wait for the slow kids in the class to catch up, and it may be, there may be more pain ahead. I have said on my channel, I don't see I do think that 45 will be inaugurated, but I don't see him lasting the
Mm.
length of a term by any stretch of the imagination for
I-
any number of reasons, by the way.
Same. Same.
Any
Yes. And
number of reasons.
same. Absolutely same. I do actually believe that there are, and I follow NATO and things like that as well. So it's all global. We know there was,
Right?
Russian interference and things. I do believe that a lot is going to come to light about how the interference kind of was multi-pronged and happened. And something
I think we'll learn it. I
I
think it's
still think
history
something
books.
will turn around at some
Well, you
point.
know what? I think with Biden, I think that because he is as old as he is, and listen, I am not ageist because I'm up there myself. I would have no business being ageist. Um, but he comes from an era of old school hands across the aisle politics that doesn't exist now.
Yeah.
And uh, and I think that part of that old school mentality
Mm,
is that you appear what you've always told the world that the United States is:
mm,
strong, powerful, impervious to things like
mhm,
this. And so
mm,
I'll tell you what, I think we will in the end read about in the history books about the depth and the breadth of the interference. But I
mhm,
don't know that we will be apprised of this by the US government because the US government has a vested interest in not appearing to be, for example, Romania. I mean,
mm,
they got Romania. America does not want to think that they're in the same boat because
mm.
then America would have to ask itself the question, and then why are we not responding the same way that Romania has responded? Like, why didn't we say, okay, yeah, that redo?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
I really think there will be a lot that will continue to be hidden from us so that we can believe the great conceit that we are exceptional, that we're not susceptible to the same things that every other country is susceptible to.
I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Well, that's the thing. There is a shelf life
I
for
kind
all
of
of this.
I kind of also feel that I think having looked at his astrology, I kind of feel like Biden is in a I call it kind of a no F's left to give kind of
Oh, I would say that that's
moment
true,
moment
but
in his life.
I
Yeah.
think I think that that's true, but I also think
Yeah.
it manifests a different way. I think he's angry at the way
Mm,
he was tossed, because he
mm.
was tossed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that he shouldn't have been, I'm just saying, but he's mad about that, mad about the way his son was treated, uh,
Mm,
mad that Kamala didn't win, but I also think Kamala could have had more support from the Democratic machine than she
mm,
had. And I think when we say that he doesn't have any F's to give, I don't know that that necessarily means that he will tell NATO and Five Eyes and everybody else, you know, yeah, let's go get him.
mm,
I don't think so. I think his I don't have any F's to give means I'm going to pardon my son. I'm going to pardon who else I'm going to pardon, and then I'm going to walk off to the
mm.
sunset. You know, that's what I think. We'll see
Well,
though.
one
There's a shelf
one
life
of
of
us
these.
one of us will be proved
That's
right.
right. That's right. Exactly. 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 January 20th, one or the other of us. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that we won't get him um inaugurated first, but that doesn't mean that things still can't change
no,
later.
that's absolutely true. That's absolutely
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, although, the inauguration charts for him and doesn't look great, and Harris as well. So it looks good for Harris, I mean. So you never know.
I think Harris is on to bigger and better things.
You think it,
Yes, and you know why? Here's what I think. Yeah, there was absolutely interference by
yeah.
Russia and company, by the way. I don't think Russia was the only one. I'm sure China was helpful. I'm sure Iran was helpful. There's a lot of bad actors. So I don't discount those for one split second. I think though that whether it was 52% or whether it was 47%, whatever percent it was, hmm. And so I think that she thinks, let me come back to California. That's what my cards have indicated. Let me come back to California. I'll be governor. Now, which is not to say she couldn't run for president from the
Like,
governor, because that happens a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it does.
that
A
that
lot of presidents have been governors before.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Uh-huh.
she's loved here in California.
Yeah.
And I think that I think she doesn't want to go where she's not wanted. And I think
Mm,
that those percentages were instructive and
mm,
sobering and disappointing. So I suspect she'll come back to California, be our governor, and then maybe the slow kids in the class will have you know done summer school or something
maybe.
and be
Oh
on
my
the
God.
line with the rest of us. Well, there's going to be summer school for sure. I mean, when the food prices go up instead of down.
Oh, I know, because of
Yeah,
all the bad economic
right.
policies. Oh,
I mean,
oh,
when your mother-in-law, whom you love because she makes you enchiladas every
mm,
Sunday, gets deported, and you say, "No, no, I didn't mean her. I meant that guy
yeah,
there."
I
That
know.
this is summer school. That's when they'll be all going to summer school, and then ideally be on the front lines with the rest of us. You
Yeah. And maybe it's going to be somebody like Newsom first next because
know,
because he's a white man.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, not that I mind Newsom. I think he
No, it's great. It's just very embarrassing that
mm,
that there are so many other countries in the world who've had female heads from forever. Golda Meir, Indira
yeah.
Gandhi, for God's sake. I mean,
Please don't please don't mention the UK though.
no. No, well, there is, yeah, Maggie.
They're not all great examples.
No, 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 but it doesn't. They're human. It's like you said.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't descend to the realms of the angelic because they run for
No,
office.
no, they
They
didn't.
are
No.
human. And those humans, including Margaret Thatcher, were
Mm.
women. And
Yeah.
yet for us, we just, this is a lot. This is the summer school on steroids course that people are going to have to take to figure out what that's all about and why women agree to be complicit in their own oppression.
And I think this my astrology work has led me to that as well. I as everything converged for me, we've got to stop thinking of our leaders and politicians that we elect as something other
Right.
and something special and above us. They are humans and we
That's
are
right.
choosing, electing them. So we've got to, work with them, not just say, okay, you're in charge, you do what you want kind of thing. You
Right.
know, it's just and this is at every level, school board
Mhm.
and every,
Mhm.
I'm so tired of, people moaning, well, they're not doing this, say on the Democratic side, Democratic voters moaning about the Democratic Party all the time. And I'm like, well, so what are you doing
Right.
then?
Right.
you
Right.
know?
The revolution is coming and the revolution is us. I mean, if it's not us, and I think it's important that we all do our parts in our own way. And I read for a woman, I think last week. It was really interesting. She's one of my viewers, and
Mm,
she had been retired, and she was living. Her mother was living with her. Her mother was in her 90s,
mm,
and so this woman had retired and she just had no purpose. Like she just could, and I said, well, what did she used to do? Well, basically what she used to do for a living was, I don't know, like count widgets kind of, let's say,
mm.
or deal with customers who didn't get the right number of widgets. Let's just say for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
So I said, there are places that could use your help.
Mm,
Right. There are organizations and institutions, whether it's government ones, whether it's, grassroots, that would love somebody who's good on the phone with
yeah.
customers, right?
Yeah.
Call people up and ask for money or to call people up and ask them to come to a meeting or and it was
Mm,
so interesting because she thought in the beginning of the session that she had nothing to offer, but
yeah.
she had everything to offer. She had that human um, ability to connect with other humans, right? So it's all
Yeah.
about figuring out what we can do. Like I can't uh, storm the Bastille because I have a bad back and I'm old, but I
Yeah.
can storm the Bastille on YouTube or on
Hmm.
Substack, and I can.
Exactly. Which is what you and I do,
Yes, we both write on Substack. Yes, exactly. And I'll put the links for
yeah.
all of that so that
Yeah.
you can see how to find
Yeah.
Louise and her work.
And there are other examples of people starting to realize that and doing it kind of in a community, like we're doing it to a YouTube community or a Substack community.
But
But
community is important. Yeah.
there's an organization I found on this Blue Sky that I joined, and I've actually been on it forever, but it's called demcast.com if anybody wants to go and look at it. And we all know how the side that we are not on has used social media for propaganda to nefarious um, purposes. Demcast are gathering people together to all flood social media with things about how, say, the abortion bans are harming people
Mm.
and things like that. And so, if you're on social media and if that's all you can do, they're a great one to sign up with because they will send you the text, the post, the thing, and you just post it everywhere. So,
Well, that's great. And because now that we know that legacy media or corporate media or whatever we want to call it is not the go-to source for correct information. That's great. That's good information to have so that it's another resource. But
it
yeah, we
is.
all have to do our parts, and community can be a screen if you can't get out of your house. It can
Yep.
be your local school board. It can be your local Democratic committee meeting.
Yep.
There's a lot that we can do, you
Oh,
know.
there is. lots of things you can do, yeah. And you can do a lot of it from your living room. But I also suggest, getting meeting up with like-minded people in your local community if you can, as much as possible. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
let me tell you all. So you guys, I don't know if you know, but I record on not Sundays. So like last week, I recorded and then I had to go change my top really quick because I didn't want people to think it was the same. I thought I wanted people to think it was a different day. But at any rate, today I'm recording this on Saturday and it is Louise's birthday. So happy birthday, Louise. Birthday
Thank
cake.
you.
All right.
65 today.
You were born the same
And
year as my little brother.
when on our birthdays, we have what's called a solar return chart, which means you create a chart for the moment the sun is at the same point it was at when you were born. And my solar return chart is really good for this year coming, and it's all about speaking out and
Nice.
speaking my truth. So, I'm not surprised we ended up talking about politics, even though we said it wouldn't go
No.
that far, but that's fine too, because we're both interested in it. And, we both see that eventually I think things will turn around. We just had to see a lot more pain before.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't, but,
Well, but you know what? We contracted to be here now,
yeah,
and
we did.
there's a reason for that. We
And
are the
I
helpers,
think I think that reason is to see it and to learn from it and
right?
to be a part of the change, to
Right.
be quite honest. So
Absolutely. Couldn't agree
yeah,
more.
yeah.
Is there anything
Thank you.
else you'd like my audience to know?
Oh, well, I'd love for people. My Venus retrograde class is off the charts. And so I hope people will check that out. I am offering just a free preview webinar next week if anybody wants to come and sign up for that. But just follow me, join me on YouTube and comment on my videos. I'm very engaged and I love people that kind of give me feedback and information that adds to what we're talking about. So,
Right.
so
And we'll have all the links for all of that so that you can do that.
yeah. And I just hope you'll get some value out of all the content. I'm just like a content. It's like,
No, it's great. It's great. Well, good.
yeah.
Well, Louise, I hope you have a wonderful birthday. And I'm so
Thank you.
glad that you came on with me.
Oh,
And
it was lovely to spend it with you. So,
yes, and I will see you out there in YouTube land.
yes. And
Okay,
thanks
take
for
care,
watching,
everybody.
everyone.
I'll see
Bye.
you all what next week, tomorrow. Well, not really tomorrow, but you know what I mean. Tomorrow after tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Monday. Bye.